Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our special interview with an illustrator who works for Marvel.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hello, my name is J-Law, but you can call me Justin. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of film, television, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. And today, you're joining us for our ongoing series, Behind the Geeks, where we interview a guest who has worked behind the scenes or been a part of any of the things that we love. Today, I'm chatting with my friend Rob Brunette. He's an illustrator working on a variety of projects with Marvel. His artwork can be found on various promotional materials, websites, and most commonly on the boxes of some of the toys we collect. In our discussion, Rob shares his story of how he got into the industry, and that while he's a huge fan like us, he's even more geek-centric about the process used to bring these characters, their stories, and their worlds to life. All the artwork that we'll be referencing in our discussion can be found on Rob's Instagram, which is in the show notes, so you'll definitely want to check that out. Also, just a quick disclaimer, this recording is a Zoom call recording, so there may be some issues with the audio. We apologize in advance, but nonetheless, it is a great conversation, and we hope you enjoy. Rob Brunette, thank you so much for joining us on the Geekcentric podcast. I'm very excited to talk to you about the work that you're doing. Cool illustrations. Welcome. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
We love the opportunity to chat with people that are working in the field and in the world that we generally appreciate. So again, very much like I was saying, your Instagram is littered with fantastic illustrations from some very relevant properties that we've talked at great detail about, and we will definitely get to that. But before, obviously, we get to all of that, I would love for you to just take some time and for our listeners, kind of let them know what it is you do, and maybe just to have fun with it. You know, there's always that thing where it's like what your friends think you do and what you actually do. So let's think of it like that. So what do your friends think you do, and what is it that you actually do?
Well, surprisingly, I guess like most people think I'm an animator. I get that all the time, especially from like people my parents' age or whatever. I guess and I did work in animation at one point, but yeah, for whatever reason, animator just seems to be the thing. But I guess like specifically, you would say I'm an illustrator. Currently, the main thing is I'm an illustrator for Marvel. And I work on their merchandise side of things. So I paint epic images of their MCU characters that then gets used on all the merchandise, consumer products, toy boxes, that sort of thing. Also, I do some concept artwork, which would be designing characters and environments for things like video games, or I was doing theme parks for a while, or
cool
toys and that kind of stuff. It's fun. Like it, and it, like you kind of never know what the project will be or where things will take you. You just kind of it's always something different, but that's primarily good. the Marvel illustration stuff.
Well, that's good, because you don't want to be bored in doing what you're doing, right? Like you know, it's always nice. I don't think that you could be bored in doing what you're doing, but it's nice that there's a sense of diversity in and around some of the projects you do, right? So that's really, really cool.
Definitely.
So, you know, again, you're an illustrator. You're really focusing right now on doing Marvel illustrations for some of their toys and their packaging. How did you get into this? Like, how did you find your way into this sort of field of work?
It was a long, winding journey. Lots of, just taking different paths and sort of finding my way. But I guess like I was always interested in art and like the making of films. Like that to me, I guess growing up was the main influence, and what sort of kickstarted me sort of being like, okay, like I don't know exactly what that's called, but I know that that's a thing that people do. Like I know that there are people who draw the characters and the monsters for movies, especially like when I saw those the Lord of the Rings like special features. That was sort of like, you would just see the artists like just sitting down and doing all those like pencil sketches of like what the costumes and worlds would look like. So that kind of planted the seed for me. But yeah, it took a while to eventually sort of find my way there. And yeah, so in high school, I was still like artsy, like I was always drawing growing up. But then in high school, I think like a lot of it was just that I was afraid to admit to myself that this is what I wanted to do and kind of own it. So I would sort of draw like quietly on the side or like alone in my
Right.
bedroom. But then yeah, and like I did well in science and math and sort of thing. So then I was like, well, if I'll combine the two. And then so going into university after leaving high school was like, I'll be an illustrator for science textbooks. And that was kind of the original goal. But
Wow.
then it's kind of, but I thought I was like,
that's interesting. That's like really niche. That's definitely very
yeah,
niche.
I know. Maybe even more so niche than working in entertainment. Like looking back on it, it's probably kind of a dumb idea. But yeah, so in university, I was learning all the traditional stuff like sculpting, oil painting, that kind of stuff. And then but by the end of it, sort of admitted to myself, like as fun and cool as the science stuff was, I was like, I don't think I could do this as a career path. And then was like, I just need to go into entertainment. Like that's where the passion lies. So then I went to Sheridan. I did a bit more
cool
schooling at like Sheridan College. Yeah.
Nice.
And then was in illustration for a bit there. And then by the end of that, I was like, okay, I was looking at my options, and I was like kind of near Toronto, and I was sort of seeing that it was going to be a tough road if I wanted to make a living as an illustrator full time, like right out of school. It's not really like there's always a job posting like illustrator.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's hard.
Said company. And yeah. So, but I thought I could definitely get like full-time work at an animation studio. I saw like you could be a background painter or a character designer. And at the time, that was sort of where my art and style was focused. I was like sort of into animation. So yeah, cool. So like my goal there was just like, I just want to be able to make it make a living as an artist full time, leaving school, just to
get your foot in the door. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
You gotta, like there's a lot of people, like even some of the filmmakers that we know and love and the people that have working in the industry, they took a very low tier job before they got to being a DP or a director or a set decorator or anything, right? So I think
something to get
yourself in there.
So I was working on a few shows there, and then did like the Magic School Bus, like that was exciting for a bit. And then I was like, there we go, I was like science and art.
There you go. you made it, dude. You were doing science and art at the same time. I love it.
So that was fun. And then and a blast, and like just so cool to be like, oh my gosh, I'm like working on this thing that I grew up watching, but then more and more was just sort of feeling this, like, especially when like the new Star Wars, like Force Awakens and that sort of thing came out. And then I was getting more and more into the Marvel movies and seeing those things. I was like, I want to be working on more something that I'm passionate about and that like my friends and, family would be interested in, as opposed to like the preschool TV shows and stuff that I was working on at the animation studio.
Right.
And then I also had somebody, I don't know if you listen to The Edge, or I guess he's on Q107. He's like Fearless Freddy. He's like a radio host.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So
I was landscaping for a bit in the summers, and I met him doing one of the jobs, and he's like really into comics and writing comic books as well.
Right.
And he's been like pestering me all this time, like being like, you got to get a booth at Fan Expo. You got to get into this stuff and just sort of like get into this world. Like I see your interests and like, you're into these kinds of like superheroes and that kind of thing. And he's like, this would be great for you. Put together some fan art, start selling some prints. And I was like denying it for years. And then, but then eventually was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try this out. And that was like that was like the beginning of the path to where I'm at now, kind of thing. I don't know. Like I really can't thank that guy enough. Like he was just the nicest guy and like so supportive. I think I was like 18 or whatever at the time. Nice. But then so I was doing that for a while, selling art at the booths, and then still working the day job at the animation studio. And then Yeah, I reached this point at the animation studio where I was like, there was like the work I wanted to be doing, but I was like, if I looked at the work I had, I'm like, there's just not enough here in my portfolio that's saying that.
Yeah.
Uh, there wasn't enough work to show it. And I'm like, if I really want to make a go of this, I can either keep just chipping away at it year after year, but then I'll be, like years off from getting there. Or I was like, I'll just save up some money. Like I put money aside and just like took a little sabbatical, like took time off, didn't sign another contract once my current contract had like ended, was just like, I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to see where this goes kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just dove into creating concept art and like that sort of portfolio. Like at the Comic Cons, you can get you can put like work together in like a little portfolio, and it can be reviewed by like Marvel editors or DC editors.
Sure.
And so, and then like if the stuff's good enough or what they're looking for, you get like a little interview with them. And like, so those things, like it's a good avenue to be like getting your work out there and selling prints and that kind of stuff. But also like you can
networking.
It's a kind of, network. And it's like almost like a job interview for Marvel and that kind of thing. So that was like one of the first encounters with Marvel where like they saw some of my images and liked it, but like he was like, these, if you wanted to like do comic book covers and everything, like these are the sorts of things like we would look for. And the like interview and meeting with him went really well. And then he sent me like these prompts of like mock-up comic book covers that I could do. So I did those and like sent it back to him, and like they were really nice, but like just nothing happened with it. But I was like, so that was like one time that I was like, okay, this is like my first like interactions with Marvel. And then like it just, nothing, it just sort of fizzled out. Nothing happened there. But like, so in this time I was looking at artists like Boss Logic and that sort of thing. And I was like, I also wanted to grow my social media following and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then what he was doing was like, he would take like, rumored castings for Marvel superheroes or that sort of thing. And then my brother's like the super fan of all this kind of stuff. And I asked him, I'm like, who would be, who are like some exciting characters that I could visualize right now, and like, or like people that I should work on. So he recommended, like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt for like the Fantastic Four thing.
Yes.
And so I did that. I was like, and I did a couple more of those and didn't like nothing, like they went kind of viral, but like, like, nothing like totally came of it.
Well, I remember when I was reading like one of those articles on like, I think it was like a sort of like a, sorry, what was it called? Comic book reader.
Yeah.
Sort of just like,
I think it was comic book. Yeah.
It was comic book reader or like slash film. It was basically one of those.
Screen Rant was one of the big ones.
Screen Rant. That's it.
Yeah.
I saw something on Screen Rant. And I remember I'd seen it on your profile, but then I saw it on Screen Rant in an article talking about how this illustration beautifully captures the fan casting.
No, and they credited me.
They credited you, and I was like, bro, this is it. And I love that you again, the journey that you've had to get to this point has obviously been to build your skill set the entire time,
right?
To build your skill set. Like even the time at the animation studio, it sounds like while it proved to be, growing your skills, it wasn't necessarily the kind of work that you wanted to do, but
for sure
you carved your own path. And now to the point where it was admitting to yourself that you can create, like, you can just be free with these sort of ideas that you want to create. Yeah, there you are, right? Like that's it. And that's so cool. One of my favorite fan casting drawings that you did was Ryan Gosling as Silver Surfer. I thought that was
man. Well, that was perfect that I mentioned Fearless Fred then, because that was his, because I messaged him and was just like, all right, like give me like a cool casting of like something and he's always been like the biggest Silver Surfer fan. So I can't take credit for that idea.
But sure, but it was really well done. It was really well illustrated. Yeah, going back to Boss Logic, like I think that's really smart for you to notice what he was doing really, really well, and almost again take your spin on it. Find the opportunity to use your Instagram as the best way to showcase your work, which is definitely more of the times now, right? Like how people are getting noticed.
It's weird because like it does happen, but it's also like one of those things that like there's no guarantee, right? Like there's been so many times that I've tried it and I'm like, this is gonna go viral. This is the image that I'll, and then like those are always the ones that like nothing happens. And for whatever reason, you're just like, people aren't engaging with it. And
I couldn't agree with you more.
Always,
it's the frustration.
crazy.
It's the absolute
Yeah.
frustration of
But I feel
committing
like
to
if you
that.
just keep throwing it out there and like eventually one of them will stick, and but still for sure, like you never know, right?
It's true. You can't predict it. I think even I know as the YouTube side of what we do,
Right.
we would have that. We would have the idea and think this is going to go viral. People are going to love it. They're going to eat it up, and then nothing happens. And then something that we just made for fun, we put the same amount of everything, and then suddenly it blows up. And it's like, it doesn't matter the focus. It's almost like the intent. If you're doing it with intent that you're hoping it's going to go viral, it's probably not going to go viral. But if you do it for the sake of just doing it because you love it, it's probably going to go viral. Like, exactly.
I know. Like when you're not putting the pressure on yourself, maybe like I do notice that sometimes in my own like paintings, it's like the ones that or like the characters that I'm working on, the Marvel stuff that I'm like, I find like if I put too much pressure on myself, or I'm like, this has to be like, sometimes if you just like force it too much, it doesn't always like pan out as nicely. Whereas the ones that you didn't have like as high expectations for or whatever, you end up being like, oh wow, this is actually like kind of like this turned out to be one of my favorites, and I didn't really see that coming. I don't know.
That's great.
Anyways, I wish I was better at controlling that.
But no, but that's really great. And I think that, again, your Instagram really does showcase, all sides of your art style, from sort of painterly to like very clean and really refined artwork. You transition from an animation studio to essentially working for yourself, and now you're working with Marvel. And the most recent stuff that you've been posting on your Instagram has actually been for Spider-Man No Way Home. Like the illustrations though that you've captured of these characters, like I love the one of Sandman. It's so simple.
Oh yeah, thanks. Well, that's an example there of like, I don't know. Like for me, it was like the big one was it was like Green Goblin and the Lizard, but then like Sandman, I wasn't really sure where I was gonna take that, and that was just one of those things that I guess like I didn't put as much pressure on myself for that, and I was like really happy with how that turned out, and it kind of went really smoothly, the whole process of it. I was like, that was a surprising one for me, and I kind of look back on that one, I'm like, all right, that was cool.
The character illustrations that you did for Loki are really, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, so those were the first ones I did with Marvel, actually, and like the very first thing was the Loki image specifically, and like I just kind of got that email out of the blue, and I think it was basically through just having seen my work on Instagram, I guess like maybe one of those sites like Screen Rant or something, the people at Marvel had seen, and then they contacted me to do that. So those were the first three, and it was like, an insane feeling. And like you were saying earlier, like just to think of the trajectory, like I had hopes that I could get here at some point. And then going to Lightbox Expo was huge, because like the actual Marvel artists, or like the artists that work on all these films, were there.
Is one of them named Park?
Andy Park.
Andy Park. Andy Park.
Man, that's so crazy that you said that, because that was like one of the guys that I was able to meet with, and I just like walked up to him one night, and like I sort of caught him like as like the crowds died down and everything, and just like showed him my portfolio, and I didn't really have anything too related to Marvel at the time or whatever, but he said like, this is like some really refreshing work, like, and was into it. And that was like, that gave me all the confidence I needed to just like last me for years, like it was insane. And like, cause that's like, that guy's one of my art heroes. Like anybody on that Marvel visual development team are just like, gods to me. And then so to have him like that validation was just like, here we go.
Absolutely.
But like it was just like I like these like little moments of like there were like a few times like over the years that it's like, okay, like I can get there. And then so to be working at Marvel now is like kind of like surreal, but also I'm like,
because I get it. You've had all these instances in your leading up to this point where you're kind of brushing with shoulder to
Right.
shoulder with Marvel, and it's like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
and it's like you're getting close, and then now you're in it, and it's
Yeah.
obviously right now it's very freelance. It's very
Yeah.
contract to contract, if you will, work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But even that in itself, you want to preserve that relationship while also being able to build upon it to maybe expand even more. But
For sure.
100% to hear someone like Andy Park, be able to validate that you're on the right path, that's all the ammo
Exactly.
you need to turn
Oh my
around
gosh.
and just really lean in further, more so,
Yeah.
and just know that you're on the right track. So that's great.
Especially like it came at the perfect time where, yeah, like I
Mhm.
had left the animation job, like the cushy job, and then was like, and then, yeah, I was asking him like what sorts of things like could I add to this? And he was like, if you did like some superhero like images, like, similar to like all the concept work that they have for the films, but then like explore variations in the costume. So then I went home immediately and did that Fantastic Four thing. Like it's always like, yeah, you don't realize like when it'll happen, how it'll happen, and like in what way. And to be doing like the consumer products or merchandise side of things is interesting as well. Like I didn't even really consider this as an option, but it's turned out to be like such a cool avenue to kind of explore and yeah, just like posing these characters in like an epic way. And it kind of, I feel like, makes a lot of sense for the type of art that I do. Like growing up, I was like really into portraiture and that sort of
Right.
thing. And then, so it's kind of like a nice combination of all the things. And then like the work, I can tend to just get like really nitpicky into all the hyper details and everything. And this is like, they want the most detail in these drawings. So like, yeah, it just kind of worked out nicely, I guess.
Well, and I think that again just goes back to the idea of the styles that we see on your Instagram. These
Right.
Spider-Man No Way Home ones are very polished, very finalized, very,
Yeah.
to your point, detailed. What I'm seeing here in the illustrations is exactly what I saw in the movie. So I love that there's the correlation and the connection between them. And I just think it's incredible. Like you're a geek, I'm a geek. We love this.
Yeah.
We love these worlds, right?
Totally.
We love these
Yeah,
worlds.
yeah.
And I can only imagine if this was me being asked to do this, I would like be so paranoid, and like I would be locking myself down because I would not want to like talk to anyone about it. And if anyone asks me about what I'm working on, I'd just be super awkward. I'd be like, I don't work anymore. I don't do anything.
That's totally it. There, especially with like the Spider-Man stuff, like I had my blinds closed and I was literally just like caged in here, and it was really rainy here in Vancouver those months too. And I was just like, oh man, it was like I was just living in the darkness in the shadows for a long time. But yeah, it's true. Like it's kind of very solitary work in a way. It's like, which is the only downside of it. Like you can't talk about what you're doing, or like, you can't share like your frustrations of the day or whatever.
100%.
And yeah, just to know that in some way I was a part of a Spider-Man thing is just like
best part,
like the craziest feeling.
yeah, exactly. Now what's great is now that with your family members and stuff like that, you can talk about like if there were struggles of trying to really get things to work for yourself, like you can look back and talk about those learns from this project, and then like and mostly just in terms of like what images I struggled on, or like those sorts of things. Was there who was the one that you struggled with the most? Like the villain. So I started with the villains, and like those went pretty smoothly. I think like Electro, maybe just getting the lightning on his face to read nicely was like a bit like challenging for me. And then the Spider-Man for sure too, like because those costumes can be really simple, like there's not too much going on. It's like the webbing and just like the suit underneath it, right? But like if any one of those things is slightly out of place, or even like just the mask, like those, it's really just the eyes. And if they're like slightly off, it can totally just look wrong. And I don't know. So getting that like right balance, and then like having it feel like you're getting like this dynamic pose and like the movement, and it not looking like awkward and weird. Those were
those took a lot of noodling and messing around with. And also just the fact that it's like, my gosh, like these are the Spider-Man that I grew up with. And to think that I'm like now drawing them, it was like, so just trying to get over that mental thing. And I'm like, you're not worthy of this. I kind of had to like, I don't know what it is, like just play like, I think, and I wrote about it in the posts as well. Like I just sort of had to convince myself that this wasn't actually going to happen. And I guess because I was working in silence, and I was, like, it's not like people were in the streets screaming about Spider-Man or whatever. Like I could just sort of like pretend this isn't going to happen. I'm just painting a nice image of Spider-Man. And like, I've painted Spider-Man before for like fan art things. And I'm like, I'll just see it as one of those and it'll be nothing. So I would try. And then because it was just like the mask on, I'm like, this isn't Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire behind the mask. It's just a drawing of Spider-Man.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You slowly talk it down a little bit so you can, you can lose some of that pressure. I totally get you, man.
Yeah. It would just, the emotional roller coaster of it was well, a lot.
Nonetheless, you did some great work with that, stuff. And obviously outside of these character illustrations on your Instagram, but you've also done some like sort of like your own, like I have to bring it up because it's probably one of the coolest ones is Santa Claus Monster Slayer. This is like, and like you have 1, 2, 3, I think 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different 11 posts about this character
on the Santa Claus thing.
And
there's more to come.
There's more
the Santa Claus thing. Whenever I have a bit of downtime or whatever, I'll just kind of, I've always got these ideas or I'm thinking up like things of like possible storylines or whatever. And then, just like to have those as like a nice portfolio piece for like showcasing my ability to design creatures and characters and that kind of thing. I've been working on one recently that I haven't had like too much time to develop, but like I will post soon. It's like to exist in the Star Wars world, just because like watching the Boba Fett series kind of got me inspired by it, especially like the Jabba the Hutt characters and things. And then it was like just kind of like this weird sluggish thing that rides around and this robot. And I would love to work on a Star Wars project one day. And then some things, like in the case of the Santa Claus thing, even though he's like pretty close to like Thor, it's like, with like the look and everything, he's like a Thorish type version of Santa. Like some things of just like my own world, and then other things of like, if I were to work on a Star Wars project, like what would be like a cool character to see kind of thing. So I did like one little furry dude a while back, and then I think it was like the racing bike that he's on, which was kind of like the initial idea for it. And then this thing is just like something I'm developing as well that I think would just be like a cool little background character or something.
I love it. I love it. Star Wars is our jam, bro.
For me, like the main thing with all of the Star Wars things, like is just the design work that they're doing now is so insanely good. Like it's just top tier. And so for any of those shows too, like the Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, like the main part that I'm watching for is that ending credit scene where you see all the concept work, like from the like that's all I really care about. It's just sort of seeing that like slideshow of those like the keyframes. I love that so much.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But you know what? We kind of wrap this interview up, touching on this idea of like what you like to enjoy. Maybe for our listeners, you could share us something which we call Whatcha. This is something you've watched, played, read, maybe listened to. And is it, maybe something that you've enjoyed recently, or maybe something that you enjoy in your free time outside of the work that you do? So what you've been up to?
Okay. For the most part, like the main things I consume are like the making of behind the scenes stuff. Like even still, I think I enjoy those more than the movie half the time. Like the Marvel Assembled stuff, like that series has been like huge for me. I love that so much, and I can't wait till the next one comes out. So like they just had the Eternals one, and that was just like I get choked up watching those like they were talking about like the characters like trying on their costumes for the first time in that for the movie. And yeah, and it's just like, and it's talking to like the costume designers and everything, and how it was just like this emotional thing, and I'm like getting teary-eyed, and it's a making of thing. So that, and one thing I can't recommend enough is the there's also on Disney Plus like the Imagineering series. Have you guys ever watched that?
Dude,
It's incredible. That's
that
like
was
probably the greatest show ever.
That's-
I love
yeah.
it so much. Yeah. So-
Are you? It was the Imagineering one was the 7-episode one that kind of walks you
yeah,
through.
where it sort of follows like the history of the Disneyland parks
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, that
Sort of
series
like-
was unbelievable, and we
Yeah.
are well overdue for season 2 in that vein.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's-
is that possible? Like, would
Well,
they just sort of?
I think that there's more to talk about. Like, it's Disney,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Disney
right.
in its own right is a forward-thinking filmmaking, science and technology. It's all encompassing, right? So I feel like
Man,
there's more to talk about what else the Imagineering team is working
sure.
on.
Yeah, I
sure.
guess like, and they kind of like they sort of dive into like the Star Wars and like Marvel stuff that they were building. But yeah, I feel like they could go into a bit more detail there. But I loved like just how honest they were about like
Mhm.
they're very transparent through that, like of just
Mm-hmm.
like the different like the failures and oh man, I could eat that stuff up. So like that for sure is like the main stuff that I will watch.
So you're absolutely a geek for all behind
For
the scenes
making
stuff.
of. Yeah.
No, that's
yeah.
so good though,
Yeah.
right? Like what's so
Yeah.
exciting too about like at least again you mentioned the Book of Boba Fett when
Yeah.
what was their series called?
Oh, you mean like the making of for like the Mandalorian thing?
Yeah,
The
what was it
wasn't
called?
it Gallery or something? Like-
yes, the
Yeah.
gallery. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So when with Book of Boba Fett wrapping, when Disney Plus potentially releases the gallery series
Yeah.
that maybe captures or episode, who knows, that captures the behind the scenes for the Book of Boba Fett. I'm very excited to see
Oh my gosh.
that. I love that Disney
Totally,
Plus
yeah.
is totally committed to showing more behind the
know.
scenes of what makes the stuff that they dig.
But I feel like they could do more, even just for me. just I'll consume it all. But it's like because even those assembled things, as great as they are, I'm like, I need to see more of the actual, like, I want to hear about like the visual development team and like the concept artists and sort of stuff. Like they're very much sort of focused on like the production of it and actually, but I think like I need to see more on that pre-production and like, how they're sort of like coming up with what the costume would look like and the designs and the things they explored and why certain avenues wouldn't work. And like, I don't know, that to me would be huge if they did more of that. I feel like there's just so much more that they could dive into. I think the Lord of the Rings stuff, like I don't know if you ever got those DVDs back in the day. Like, it was like 4-disc box sets. Like they did
Got
such
it right
a good
here.
job with that, right? Yeah, like they had the miniatures and like all the things that like that was like the gold, the holy grail of like behind the scenes, and I feel like there's so much there that they could just like fill Disney Plus with that content and like, oh man. Anyways, that would be my dream.
Awesome. That's really great. And I really love that, as we kind of wrap this interview up, that we've gotten to a point of really understanding that you're passionate about the behind the scenes, and that is your geek out thing, more than the Star Wars, more than just being, more than just Star Wars, more than just Marvel,
the finished product.
But it's that process. It's being a part of that process and helping to bring it to life. So I'm totally with you, and I love that we've kind of established that through this interview. So thank you so much, Rob, for joining this podcast. And this was a very nice, fluid, very comfortable conversation. Again, many people won't know this, but we've only met a few times and we've stayed connected through social and aware of what we're doing. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here and share more insight, because it's really great, again, to see what really fuels and drives for you to do the things that you make is the things that we like really geek out on. So thanks, man.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, it was great it's always great to just like chat and catch up. I love like.
And again, your Instagram and all of your details are going to be in the show notes. You have to go check out all the work Rob's been doing on his Instagram. Show him some love. And yeah, give him a comment on some of your favorites, even. Just
and if there's any artists out there too like that have any questions, like definitely message
for sure.
me. I'm happy.
Oh
happy to help. And
yeah. If you're an up and coming artist, like we actually have a frequent guest. Her name is Megan Clara. Her Instagram is Megan Clara Draws. There's your plug, Megan. But she's actually been very much on the path of teaching herself to do character design to the point where she's actually doing it now as a job. So
cool.
You know what I mean? Like that's the sort of life that people want to start creating for themselves, where they can start doing what they love. So do what you love.
Possible.
Yeah, man.
You just gotta keep it. It's that perseverance, just like keep at it over the years. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Rob, for joining us on the Geekcentric podcast. It means a lot. And thank you for tuning in. That concludes our interview with Rob Brunette. Again, all of his details to Instagram are in the show notes, so you definitely want to check out his artwork. It's so good. We only talked about a few pieces, and right now, as I record this outro, I'm actually looking at it, and he's got tons of stuff. So definitely go check out his Instagram in the show notes. But that's it. Thank you for joining us for this Behind the Geeks episode. Thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love, and you can always reach out to us and ask us any questions about any of the things that we cover. And to do so, you can reach us by email at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or on Twitter at geekcentricyt, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering a variety of other content, and new content always coming out. Right now, we have our spoiler-free and spoiler-filled reviews for Turning Red, Pixar's latest movie, available now on Disney+. So if you haven't seen it, or you have, well, we got something for everyone. Also, we have our spoiler-filled review for The Batman, which is out as well. Also, this week we did our This Week in Geek, where Nate and I go through all the latest news and some trailers like The Boys Season 3 teaser, Halo's latest trailer, and of course the first look at Miss Marvel. So definitely go check that out. Plus, next week we're going to have our Oscar prediction episode with our guest Mike Hogan on, and shortly after the Oscars air, we'll have our recap and review. So if you're an Oscars fan, it is the season, so get ready. But thanks again for joining me for this Behind the Geeks episode. I appreciate you. Peace.